Hello, welcome back. This is Chris from Team Phoenix. So we've got some very interesting developments in the Suzanne Morphew case, and I just want to run over a few things and bring everyone up to date with kind of where we are and where the investigators are in the case. So most importantly, within the last 24 hours, Barry has now come out and he is sitting down with CBS for Denver News, and he is speaking with them. So it appears that he's no longer going to be speaking at all, possibly to Lauren Schaff from Fox News, and he has spoken to CBS Denver. So I'm going to go through that article in just a moment, and it's very interesting. And also we're just going to cover some things that Andy Moorman has now spoken of. He has been speaking with Dr.Phil. There's been quite a few episodes that have been put onto Dr. Phil's YouTube channel. I'll link that under the video. And there's just some very interesting new bits of information that have come out as this kind of timeline seems to progress and grow with information as time passes. But first, I just want to have a look at this article that Barry Morphew is now done with CBS Denver. He's done an interview with them, it sounds like, off camera. As before, as with Lauren Schaff, he does not want to be on camera. Obviously, that's going to raise suspicions with a lot of people why he doesn't want to be on camera. I mean, considering his wife is missing now for nearly 5 months, then certainly if that was me and that was my wife missing and I had absolutely nothing to hide, I think this would be the time to show everyone your face and put all these rumours to bed that people were pointing fingers at me. I would like to show them my grief-stricken face and just let everybody know exactly, how active and how grief-stricken I was in the whole thing. So I don't quite understand why Barry is still insisting on not being on camera, but I'm sure he has his reasons for that. But I'm just gonna have a look through this article, and first I'll just touch on this video. It's a very interesting video for you to watch here, and this will give you a good rundown on what we're going to be going through.
Is now up for sale. Suzanne Morphew vanished during a bicycle ride in Chaffee County Mother's Day. Her brother flew to Colorado to search for her, then took his case to Dr. Phil, and he threw out a lot of theories,
including pointing a finger at Morphew's husband. Our Mountain Newsroom reporter Jamie Leary talked with the husband, joins us live right now. So Jamie, what does he think happened to his wife?
Well, since his wife disappeared, Barry Morphew has been recorded without permission. He said curious onlookers wander onto the property. That's part of the reason he's selling his home. The other part is he believes his wife was abducted, and his 2 daughters are now terrified to live inside of the home. We sat down and talked to him without cameras about it, and he gave me permission to share some of his story. Barry Morphew wasn't part of the recent search for his wife, and he's already spent months scouring the land around their home. He no longer believes she's here.
What do you remember about her? She's just the brightest light ever.
It's what everyone says of Suzanne Morphew. Barry says she would have stopped to help anyone in need, and it's part of the reason he believes she was abducted.
We're going to fan out, and we're going to...
His brother-in-law, Andy, who organized the search, has been Barry's biggest critic, even implicating him.
You think her husband is the one that did this?
Well, based on behaviors and things that have happened, yeah.
But Barry says Andy hardly spoke to his sister and paints a very different picture. The 52-year-old broke down in tears on Sunday as he talked about the love he and his wife share for each other. In a letter she wrote to him on Valentine's Day, she said, "I just want you to know my life would be nothing without your love and the excitement you bring to our marriage and my life. All my love, Suzanne." She continued on another sheet of paper, talking about how Barry held her when she was sick from chemotherapy, writing, "I remember all the beautiful and difficult times we had. So many. Through each one, I know our love has grown stronger. You are my love forever." The pair married in 1994 and had 2 children, despite Suzanne's Hodgkin's lymphoma diagnosis, which recently returned. Barry has faith she's still alive, and to aid in the search, he says he's willingly turned over cell phone records and opened his home to investigators.
I spoke with investigators today to check in. They say so far they have not identified anybody as a person of interest in this case. Reporting live in Summit County, Jamie Leary, CBS 4 Mountain Newsroom.
A very interesting article here then that Barry is now sat down with CBS Denver 4 and he has shared a letter, the last letter that he received from Suzanne. So I'm just going to quickly read through this article. So it says the home of a missing mother from Salida is now up for sale, and I can confirm that's definitely so. I know that a few people questioned it and said that it's showing as not listed for sale, but it definitely is up as active for sale on realtor.com, and even the Daily Mail here are reporting on the fact that the home is for sale and it's up for $1.75 million. So that definitely appears to be the case with the home. Suzanne, 49, disappeared on May 10th and her husband Barry believes she was abducted. He told CBS 4 as a result his daughters are terrified to return to the house, and the family has been renting a home nearby for the last several weeks. Another reason Barry felt the need to list the home is due to the extensive media coverage. He has been recorded against his will and had curious strangers wander onto the property. CBS 4 sat down with him at the house on Sunday with no cameras. He said he wanted to share his side of the story. Since his wife disappeared, Barry's brother-in-law has been his biggest critic, even implicating him in Suzanne's disappearance. Andy Moorman told the Dr.Phil show on Friday he believes Barry murdered his sister despite the fact investigators have not identified a person of interest. Andy Moorman organised a large-scale volunteer search at the end of September, combing through areas investigators have previously looked, hoping to find any sign of his sister. We asked Barry why he didn't join the search. He said it was because he had already spent months doing the same with close friends. He no longer believes she's in the area. He also added Andy never reached out to him directly about the search, despite repeated attempts to contact him personally. Barry said his brother-in-law hasn't cared to reach out to his sister in the past and questioned his motives. I spent many nights, Suzanne crying on my shoulder, asking why her siblings refused to show her love, said Barry. And there's a picture here, a picture when they were married in 1994. So Barry is obviously sharing some very sentimental pictures and a letter to CBS Denver. So he's obviously trying to put across this picture of, well, we know that they were obviously loved, they were high school sweethearts, and I guess it was the classic love story. And it says here, when her cancer came back, he said he and his daughters were the only family by her side. Suzanne was diagnosed with Hodgkin's lymphoma just before the couple married in 1994. The 52-year-old said despite the odds, they had two beautiful daughters together. Barry broke down as he talked about all they had been through and the love they shared together. He shared a letter Suzanne wrote to him in February for Valentine's Day. It's the last note that he has from her. And I've got the bigger image here so we can see it better. So it's at the top, it says you make life sweeter. And so this is Suzanne's writing. So it says, just want you to know my life would be nothing without your love and the excitement you bring to our marriage and my life. All my love, Suzanne. And then it goes on further into a letter. Let me just rearrange those. So it says, I remember the first kiss you gave me at my front door. I remember our long talks in the dark on the golf course between 3rd tee and green. I remember the day you asked me to marry you when you gave me flowers at that pond in Castleton. I remember the day you held me when I just found out I had cancer and couldn't talk. I remember our wedding day and the way you made me feel so beautiful. I remember the days our girls were born and you were right there to hold my hand and rub my back and encourage me through the pain. I remember the February nights you held me in 2013 when I was so sick and couldn't sleep. I remember all the beautiful and difficult times we've had, so many. Through each one, I know our love has grown stronger. You are my love forever. And then a heart and an S for Suzanne. So he's chosen to share this with the media. As I say, he's still not shown his face on camera as of yet. And it goes on to say, Barry says he still clings to hope and has faith that she is alive somewhere. He says to help the investigation, he opened his home and property to investigators, as well as cell phone records and computers. He said he has sat through countless days of interrogations and, despite media reports, does not have a lawyer. I'm sure at the beginning of the investigation it was mentioned that Barry had lawyered up, so I don't know whether that was misinformation. And then it just adds Suzanne's daughter started a GoFundMe page to aid in the search for their mother. So very interesting that Barry has chosen a new way to speak out and how he's spoken out. He obviously wants everybody to know just how much Suzanne loved him and how much they were in love. And we, as I say, we know they were high school sweethearts and been married since 1994. Now, I just wanted to go back because to talking about Dr. Phil. Obviously, Andy Moorman has appeared on Dr. Phil, and that's been released on Dr. Phil's kind of YouTube channel, if you like, in parts. I'll leave the link to his channel below this video, but some very interesting clues, if you like, came up during these interviews. So I just want to go through a few things that were talked about. One thing that Andy did say is something that Barry said to Suzanne, Andy's father, Gene, who of course is 87 years old and is suffering with cancer. And he mentioned that Barry had a conversation with Gene, and he said, I loved your daughter and I need you to sign some papers. And we now know that this was the guardianship for Suzanne. And Gene, thought this was obviously very odd. I mean, for a start, he's talking in past tense. I loved your daughter. And so Gene basically said, what do you mean you loved my daughter? Where is she? We're going to find her. And no, I'm not signing any paperwork. So I thought that was quite poignant that Barry has gone to Gene and asked for to sign over the guardianship, knowing, obviously Suzanne has not been found. And of course, Gene also suffering with cancer. So probably not the kind of conversation that you wanted to be having at that particular time. And they touched on, things that don't add up. These things don't add up, and they are pointing, more and more towards Barry being involved. Obviously, we can't say if he is guilty. We can't say that, but we can say that these things do point towards Barry certainly knowing more than what he's letting on. They touched on the electronic vehicle information from his vehicle, which doesn't line up with the story that he's given. And obviously, as we know, he won't take the polygraph or the voice analysis test. And then, of course, we've had the workers coming forward, Jeff Puckett and Morgan Gentile, talking about the chlorine in the hotel. I can tell you that things seem to have gone very quiet on that front. I've been trying to further get hold of Morgan Gentile, but she seems to have gone completely silent. Now, I don't know whether they're being told not to say anything, whether they are being threatened in any way or for talking. I just find it interesting that they suddenly seem to have gone quiet. What else did they touch on? So one of the biggest a new piece of information that's come out which completely kind of blows away the timeline that Barry put forward, and was that Andy, apparently there's been testimony from an employee that Barry was rambling down the road at 4 a.m. on Sunday morning, texting people trying to get them to go to Broomfield. Now, of course, his previous story was that he saw Suzanne last at 5 a.m. when he left the home. So things get kind of blurred when we now hear this employee saying that he was rambling down the road at 4 a.m., phoning employees trying to get them to go to Broomfield. I mean, the first thing that strikes me is that is a very unusual hour of the morning to be calling people and trying to get them to go to a job site. I mean, I don't know if that in that industry, whether 4 a.m. in the morning is normal to have a conversation to try and get somebody to go to a job site. But for me, that does seem extremely early, and it instantly raises suspicion. The other major piece of information that we had, well, two really. We now know that according to Andy's story, Barry and Suzanne were saw together in town at 4 p.m. on Saturday, and they were buying a sandwich. So before, we only knew up to kind of around 2:30ish that Suzanne was texting a friend about an upcoming wedding, and then we weren't sure her whereabouts after that. We now know at 4 p.m. they were seen together. And then Andy went on to mention that, and there has been murmurings and whispers about this, but he confirmed basically that at midnight on Saturday, so Saturday stroke Sunday, Mother's Day, at midnight, somebody for Suzanne's Facebook account friended a load of guys Andy's age. So Suzanne's Facebook account, whether it was Suzanne or not, friended a load of guys around Andy's age. Now, I found that extremely odd. And let me tell you something that came into my mind when I heard that. As people say, that's possibly somebody manipulating Suzanne's account. But think about this. If they had had some kind of argument, if, let's say, for instance, speculating here, let's speculate that Barry was having an affair, and this was about to come out, this was about to be known to Suzanne, because we know Barry was acting weird according to his workers on the Saturday. What if later that day or that night Suzanne then found out about this affair, or they had a big argument? And let me throw out an idea. What about if Suzanne, in a fit of anger or jealous anger, then sort of said to Barry, right, how would you like it if I friended a load of men, around my age? Or what if I went on my Facebook and friended a load of men? I can just see that as a reaction, possibly from Suzanne. So what I throw out there is, could that possibly have been Suzanne that did that as a reaction to finding out that possibly Barry was having an affair? It's just a theory, obviously, but that's one thing that came into my mind. And then obviously we don't know what happened after that. The timeline just kind of fades away. Barry said he left at 5. We don't know what happened after that point. But I thought that, that's very interesting, the fact that she friended a load of people on her Facebook. And they touched on the Cadaver Dogs, which of course they don't seem to have found anything. But then you think, well, what did these dogs hit on? Because it was numerous dogs that were hitting on the same location. I haven't heard that it's gone anywhere positively, but we'll wait to hear about that. And Andy made it quite clear that he feels that strongly that Suzanne was murdered in the home and then her body was taken somebody else. And he says, based on Barry's behaviours and actions, obviously he strongly feels that he may be involved. Obviously he prays that he's not, but everything is pointing that way. And I think most people will find it hard to disagree with that. So yeah, I wondered how you thought on this sort of new story that's come out from CBS Denver 4. As I say, Barry is now speaking with them and he shared some love letters. Well, I just wanted to just go through a few pictures because there were no internal photos on the new listing on Realtor.com, but there are some internal pictures on some of the older listings, like on Zillow. I mean, we can look here. There's some. I mean, it's an absolutely beautiful home. Inside, it's huge. I think it's got like 4 bathrooms. God knows how many bedrooms, and I mean, it's just a beautiful home. And that's the newer pictures that the Daily Mail was sharing. But yeah, very interesting how this case is developing. You've now got Barry showing some love letters, and this last love letter that he had from Suzanne. So it's going to be interesting to see how this story develops, and let's just keep hoping and praying that Suzanne is brought home, because her family, deserve to have her home.